enough, the next day his room was immaculate and remained that way for 365 days. But that mother for 366? Hello there, love bugs. Hello there, Bellas. If you have not already done so, please remember to hit the Patreon link below and or the join button here on the YouTube, and for a small monthly fee of $5, you babies, yes, you can be privy to all the shenanigans before the YouTube gets it, if the YouTube gets it. Now, let's continue reading. Toya Jackson. Bye. Toya Jackson. Almost everyone objected, no one more so than Joseph. Oddly enough, in the 1950s, my father had been one of Quincy's biggest fans. Staffers at Michael's label, too, reacted negatively when he told them, "I want Quincy Jones to produce my album." But Michael felt he and Quincy had a special rapport, and he followed his instincts. Once Michael decides to do something, it's as if he makes an unbreakable pact with himself. Michael has incredible powers of concentration, and when he puts together a tour, a record, or a video, it consumes him. He focused his energy on off the wall to the exclusion of almost all else. Quincy nicknamed Michael Jackson Smelly. Okay? Now, Quincy associated Smelly with funky. Okay, but let me tell you, what the family and the other people was associating the word smelly with. When he was 20, Michael decided deodorant was unhealthy and daily showering excessive. He wore the same jeans and socks for days, perplexing his brothers, who appealed to me. LaToya, you're close to Mike. Talk to him. What do you want me to do? He's not going to change. It's just his personality, maybe a stage he's going through. But LaToya, you're not in the studio with him, one of the guys said, wrinkling his nose. It's musky in there. Randy was more direct. The whole studio stinks, he exclaimed. Mother picked up Michael's shoes one day. She noticed gaping holes in the soles and brought him a new pair. These Alexander McQueen, like rubber Jesus sandals. Child, I wear them things everywhere. Rain, sleet, snow. You know, it ain't snowing down here in Atlanta, but I love those shoes. It's like when I get a pair of shoes, I stick with them, and I love them unless I'm going out on the town or something. He refused to wear them. I had to plead with him to discard the old shoes and really tempting fate to change his socks. Forget about it. My brother had since repeated this behavior for every album since. And considering the brilliance of his music, I'm sure at least a few of us have considered following suit. Before the Jacksons' 1984 victory tour, the others confronted Michael, telling him he couldn't continue venturing out in public looking so unkempt. "Okay," he said quietly, "I'll change. You'll see." The next thing we knew, whenever Michael went out, he dressed to the nines in 50-pound sequins military jackets, pants with creases so sharp you could slice onions on them. The work. But at home, it was back to wrinkled jeans and old sweaters. Michael's sloppiness extended to his room, for which our family employed a special maid. Okay, so when are we going to just come out and say what it is? Virgos, y'all just be messy without being too crude, but y'all are messy, you know, and when y'all get in y'all head, don't nothing else matter. Once again, when my siblings and I made enough racket about the slovenly state of his room, Michael vowed, "Okay, you guys, tomorrow I'm going to clean my room, and it will stay perfectly clean for a whole year." That's Virgo shit, y'all. Sure enough, the next day his room was immaculate and remained that way for 365 days. But that motherfucking 366? The day after the anniversary, however, promise fulfilled, it resembled a war zone once again. I'm sorry, Lou ready for his nap and he want to take it right up underneath me. So if you hear snoring, I apologize. What with Michael, me, Randy, and Janet, the only kids left at home, Havenhurst seemed comparatively quiet. As we grew older, Joseph's terror tactics turned more psychological than physical. Hundreds of times I was lying sound asleep in my room only to be startled awake by him pounding on my door and shouting, "Open this door or I'll break it down." I scurried out of bed, ran to the door, and flung it open. There stood my father, absolutely wild with rage. Over what? I've lost track. It could be everything or nothing. Another of my father's games was to burst in our rooms without knocking, making it impossible for us to relax. Well, hell, y'all need to move out. But the rule is you can't move out until you're married. He also lurked around the hallways, standing mute outside our doors, eavesdropping, and listened in on phone conversations too. I am the JoJo, he liked to proclaim. I am the hawk, and I've got eyes in the back of my head. So his handle on Instagram was Hawk J5, I think, something like that. And I was like, what is that name about? Hawk J5? Toya just explained it in her book. Because I was like, why would he call himself the Hawk? She just explained it. I am JoJo, he liked to proclaim. I am the hawk, and I've got eyes in the back of my head. Every time the JoJo came in my bedroom, my stomach knotted up, and I eventually developed ulcers from the incessant pressure. Joseph can be charming and gregarious when he wants. And in front of company, he staged a real show, which repulsed me and my siblings. Not only was it so hypocritical of him, but we couldn't figure out how not to play along. From the head of the great dining room table where he never joined us unless we had guests, my father betrayed the affectionate patriarch, asking me playfully, "So Toya, how you doing? Toy, all right?" I mumbled, barely glancing up from my plate. "Micus, what's happening? How are you doing, Micus?" Michael murmured, "Okay," shot me a look of disgust and averted his eyes. The minute we were excused from the table, Janet, Michael, and I gathered in one of our bedrooms. "Do you believe him?" Michael asked. "He makes me sick," Janet hissed. "I know," I said, "but he's our father." I'm not getting ready to break down all the animals that they bring into their house, and the trainers, and the bubbles, and the giraffes, and the lions, the tigers, the bears, the snakes, and the reptiles that they bring into their house. But they bring all that into their home, okay? And part of the reason for that is because Toya was explaining how Michael was such a caring person. He had such a pure innocence about him that he can express a childlike behavior of innocence, right? Girl, them Virgos got y'all niggas fooled. You hear me? Let me tell you something about a Virgo right quick. I'm about to give y'all the business, okay? It's so funny to me how when you ask a Virgo a question, they be like, what? What are you talking about? I didn't know that. You mean to tell me it was marijuana in that cookie? You mean to tell me that was a vagina I fell into? That's how Virgos be, child. I can't take it with them and their, oblivious naivete, right? Until it happens to them. Because them Virgos are always overthinking everything. They make problems when there are no problems, okay? But believe me, any situation where it was reversed, they been thought 100 times that you then slickily did this or did that, and that you knew exactly what was going on. But with them, they oblivious. Them Virgos, y'all. They be fooling the fuck out of y'all. They ain't got me fooled, bro. While working on Off the Wall, Michael suffered a breathlessness attack. "Take me to the doctor," he gasped. "I'm going to die." At first, Mother thought he was merely hyperventilating. But when my brother kept insisting we get medical help, we rushed him to the hospital. Although everything checked out normally, the doctors there discovered Michael has an extraordinarily small chest cavity that sometimes presses in on his lungs. They sent him home with some medication, which my mother had to order him to take, because you know Michael Jackson, just like all Virgos, them mothers don't believe in swallowing pills. Child, when I met my wife and she was like, my head hurts so bad, because you know y'all mothers is hypochondriacs. But my head hurts so bad. Girl, take this Tylenol and lay down. No, I don't swallow pills. You don't swallow pills. My brother had never ingested any pills. He panicked, complaining of not being able to breathe again, so we had to drive him right back to the hospital. Didn't I tell you them goddamn Virgos be hypochondriacs, and Michael ain't no different. It turned out to be nothing more than a stress reaction to the sedative, relaxing effect. Remember, not only had Michael never taken a drug in his life, he'd never tasted alcohol or caffeine for that matter. He continued to have these stress-induced breathing attacks sporadically ever since, and has been hospitalized many times, always under the strictest secrecy until one episode in the spring of 1990. Off the Wall came out in late summer 1979, producing 2 number 10 hits, the title track and She's Out of My Life, and the number ones, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You. Released in the midst of the severe industry-wide record sales drought, it rained down into the hands of 7 million consumers. My brother was so proud. The music business buzzed with predictions that he was a sure bet to sweep the 1980 Grammy Awards. Michael, mother, Janet, and I watched the ceremony on television that February night. To our dismay, he won only one of 2 awards he'd been nominated for. Best R&B vocal performance, man. I'll never forget the sight of him sitting in a chair, staring forlornly at the screen, tears streaming down his cheeks after the winner of the other category was announced. How can they do this? My brother cried. This is so wrong. We felt so badly for him. Very competitive when it comes to his craft. Michael was crushed. He believed he'd been passed over for reasons other than artistry. Michael suspected some in the business felt that at 21 he was too young to receive such a prestigious honor. Bullshit to Baker. Didn't Tatum O'Neal receive her, Oscar at 10 years old? Okay, I'll move forward. And as much as it hurt to admit it, there was the issue of color. The creative fields may have been less racist than most professions, but they weren't completely colorblind yet. Michael cried for several minutes, then snapped up in his chair, wiped his eyes, and vowed, "This will never happen to me again. I'm going to make the biggest selling album in history, and I'm going to win every award. You watch." Mother, Janet, and I just nodded, never doubting him for a second. The Jackson family meetings are a tradition.
No.